Thought I'd do a video about replacing the hot water heater in our 65 Safari. And it originally had a 6-gallon boiler tank, and then some years ago we replaced it with a Fagatti unit. And we had no real complaints about the Fagatti, but during a cold snap this past year, we had a burst pipe. So the new Ranein tankless water heater, both these are tankless, it has a sensor so that if it gets below freezing, it automatically kicks the heat on and warms up the unit. So even if there is water left in there, it should not freeze. It's kind of puzzling because I, every year, take this little device and I plug it into our city port inlet and pressurize it all to about 82 pounds PSI and blow everything out. And I opened up the drains on the Fagatti over here, and then the freeze happened up on the top. So not really sure what happened and not much we can do about it. But anyway, I know that a lot of vintage people are doing these sorts of maneuvers, and I thought I'd show how it works. So there's a frame here that will go around the unit, and then this piece goes on. I've already cut it so that the exhaust will flow out of it, and then that goes into the exhaust stack vent that keeps water out of it. And then at the very bottom of that is the access panel and the screen to prevent bugs. And then this little hole is air intake, probably for the original. So we wanted to keep the original style. A, we like it, and B, this hole is too large for any of the tankless water heaters covers, and they look okay, but we wanted to keep it as vintage looking as we can. So I'm probably gonna do a little time lapse of this and show some of the things that I have to do to make it all work. This piece has to be cut to make that exhaust fan line up. As of right now, it roughly goes there, so it's not going to line up correctly. It looks like it might, but it doesn't. So we'll make this hole bigger so that it goes out into that, and assemble all this. Got a gap up here. It'll probably just be covered with mastic, or I don't know, may form a piece of wood to go in there and give it some support, but mostly it's going to be held in by these screws to this piece of solid aluminum, and then it'll be screwed into the base there when the frame goes on. So this water heater also has an outdoor shower assembly, which connects here, and then you could turn it on and have hot water coming out. But we're not actually going to use that. I'm going to use this port as another way of draining it out in the winter time. It does have a pressure release valve there to drain it, which just flips up and then goes out this hose, which I'm going to cut a little bit closer to the edge of the camper. The important thing here is this on-off switch, which is really, I guess if you had a quick access door, this would be okay. But I've got an interrupt inside, which I installed for the last water heater, so that right by the control panel, there's an on-off switch, so I could just quickly turn the water heater on and off and just leave this switch on all the time. So something you might want to think about if you've got a setup like ours. One thing that I did add was this sloping ramp, and that so if any water blows in through the top, it will catch most of it and run it down and out without getting inside the trailer itself. There was a smaller version of this on before, but it didn't cover the new exhaust port. So did that, and then I will show you the wiring inside. So here it is from the back side, just kind of set up to verify that everything's working before I have to replace this controller, before I run all those wires and stuff. So I'm going to turn on the hot water at the sink. You hear it going. It climbs up pretty fast. Now the challenge on these is when you are taking a shower, if you don't want to waste water, when you turn it off, it shuts off. But then when you turn it back on, there's a little spurt of cold water that comes through. That can be not bad in the summertime, but a little bit interesting in the winter. So we've got a return valve set up on our shower so that we can send all the cold water back up to the freshwater tank. And even if we're on city water, it'll take that and take that fresh water and put it up to the freshwater storage tank, and then it won't fill up our gray tank as much. And I'll show you that in a bit. So this is the switch that I actually put on it, and that controls the power switch that I can't reach from the outside very easily. So there we are. It is up and operational, and we are good to go. Going to test it out with a little bit more water. Pretty nice. This is our return valve. When it's facing forward, as it is now, it is sending water out the shower. And if I point it that way, it sends water back up to the front of the camper to the freshwater storage tank. And then it doesn't fill up our gray water tank. You can leave the hot water heater engaged until you're done soaping up. And when you're ready to rinse, you just turn it back like that towards you. So here's an example of that. All right, that's going to be pretty cold if you were just starting it. That's sending the water up to the front storage tank, freshwater storage tank. You let it go. You kind of get a time for how long it's going to take, but at the very least, you get a quick countdown, and then you point that to you, and that water should be pretty warm coming out of there. You'll get rinsed off, soap up. When you're done soaping up and you want warm water, you just turn that back on. Keeps you from having that cold water donut that we're all familiar with if you have an instant hot water heater. So there it is, all finished up. That's the original exhaust. Again, I added power to the outside because it used to just have a cable that came down through the floor, which was bad. And then there's the bottom intake in here, the drain there. Now I do have, instead of just screws, or this was held in by these, I think they're called piano latches, not sure about that. I don't trust them, to be honest. So I've added a screw here, and then another screw over here, and then one down at the bottom. And then this top piece is actually at least partially riveted on. And that's because these two pieces, they look like aluminum, but they're actually made out of unobtainium. If you don't have them, they're going to be tough to find. So anyway, I don't want to lose them. I like the original vintage look of all this. So there we are. That's the brand new tankless hot water heater installation, but it looks almost straight out of 1965.